We're here to celebrate and to honor the notion of free speech today, but I thought I'd take a moment and recognize its much misunderstood, often ignored cousin, free listening. Because it's perhaps the most under-recognized right that we have. It's uncodified, it's unenforceable, but it's a crucial component of the right to speak. And I fear sometimes it's on its last gasp. As Mr. Grisham just said, we have unprecedented freedom to write, to speak, to protest, to talk, to organize in this country. But with that right, there comes a responsibility to listen, to hear what others are saying, to converse, to have discourse and dialogue and debate. Without listening, there is no free speech. When the framers thought about what it meant to have a First Amendment, to have free speech and the free exchange of ideas, they thought of it in terms of a marketplace of ideas. A marketplace meaning that you and I, nose to nose, in the village square, my apple cart, your apple cart, and we yell at each other until someone is persuaded or someone backs down, but everybody is listening. I think perhaps the framers would be astonished to know that the marketplace of ideas morphed into a strip mall of ideas, which morphed into a 5-floor megaplex, glass-enclosed, airless, super center of ideas in which we don't listen to each other anymore because control of the media by red states or blue states, the notion that ideas and opinion have blurred with facts in our media, mean essentially that you can wake up in the morning, turn on AM radio, go to work, surf 50 websites, go home, turn on cable news, and never once encounter an idea that conflicts with your original ideas that day. We are in peril, ladies and gentlemen, of becoming the best read, ignorant people in the history of America. The idea of a marketplace of ideas is not a hall of mirrors. It is not to enter the world of the media and information and only reinforce what you already believe to be true. Free speech is not an end in itself, and we forget that sometimes. Free speech is a means to a larger end, making us a smarter polity, making our democracy thrive, challenging our own ideas with other people's ideas. And I fear that if we do not listen, if we come to believe that free speech ends at running your mouth all day, or ends at listening to other people who agree with you running your mouth all day, then the very freedoms that we try to protect with free speech are indeed in peril. There's a quote that's been variously attributed to two great legal thinkers. One is the former Chief Justice of the United States, Warren Burger. The other is Bob Marley. If you Google it, both appear almost as frequently. But the quote is this: free speech comes with the freedom to listen. And I'd urge that it also comes with the obligation to listen, not just to people who agree with you, but with people with whom you fiercely disagree. Don't mistake this for a plea for conventional civility. If this board is filled with flowers and sonnets, and yes, indeed, we will have failed to do what we strive to do. But a plea for listening is not the same as a plea for civility. And I agree with Mayor Brown. There has never been a time in our history, and I say this both as a journalist and as a mother of two young boys, there has never been a time in our history where there was a greater need for outrage and outrageousness. But with that, there must come listening. There must come dialogue. There must come discourse. And so what I am asking you to do as you approach this wall in the coming days and months and years is to retract the idea that you have learned from cable news, that you have learned from AM radio, that discourse means shut up, you're an idiot. That is not political discourse. That is not the exchange of ideas. I ask you to back away from the notions that we have internalized from listening to too many angry pundits and too much AM radio, too many bloggers who are filled with hate and the impulse to swift vote each other. Retreat from the notion that anyone who disagrees with you is a moron. Retreat from the idea that anyone who disagrees with you is uninformed. Retreat from the idea that anyone who disagrees with you is either too close to God or too far from God to see straight. And acknowledge, as the framers did, that reasonable minds can differ. My friend Soren Kierkegaard once said, or was it Bob Marley? No, it was Kierkegaard. I quote, "People demand the freedom of speech to make up for the freedom of thought which they avoid." I disagree. I disagree that we have to avoid the freedom of thought. The eyes of the world, the eyes of this country are on Charlottesville right now. They want to see if this experiment in unfettered freedom is going to descend to the sort of ad hominem, gratuitous, mudslinging, offensive, non-discourse that makes up the bulk of political discourse today. And I say, let's defy them, let's show Mr. Kierkegaard a thing or two, and let's prove that we understand what the framers were trying to teach us, that the freedom to speak encompasses and relies upon the freedom to listen. I congratulate everyone at the Jefferson Center today. This is an extraordinary monument. Have a good day. Thank you for having me.